Just setting things up. I hope everybody is here. Virtual Instinct, Melodify. YouTube had the same problem a week ago. Yes, yes. Where can I turn off the live reactions again? Edit, customization, live reactions. There we are. There. Ads. People are having ads. I'm gonna wait for the new people to join in. We will... BIOS will start again with your track from the beginning. In the meantime... Direct poll. I'm setting up a new poll just to check if people still have issues. Again, up until this point, my OBS is telling me that everything is fine, that I shouldn't have any connection issues, that I'm always putting out the bitrate that I should be putting out, but it's not working. No buffering, let's see. I switched to Chrome, it looks good for now, let's hope it holds up. And we're back, yes we are. Now it's fine. People are saying that it's fine. HD, no lags on Chrome, nice. It might really be a YouTube issue. Yes. Small lags in the beginning. I do hope that this newer low normal latency is going to work. I don't know if it's going to be much later. It doesn't seem to be too late with the chat the way that I can see it. I do think that that's the case because this started happening ever since they started blocking ad blockers. It might also just be like to Italy or to this region. But that would be strange that all of a sudden it would stop working. My guess is that it has to do with some of the code checking for ad blockers. I mean, mine still works too. I have the uBlock origin. So it still works, like it's still blocking the ads, but it's very strange that the ad blockers and the way that they're suddenly like cracking down on it, and that coincides with everybody just having issues with streams. Because even I feel like ever since they started cracking down on that, the connections themselves have been terrible as well. We recommend that you stream at a bitrate of 6,800 kilobits per second. I think not. I think that's not a good idea, YouTube, seeing as you cannot process my 4,000 bits per second, kilobits per second. It doesn't seem that adding more to that would fix the problem. Can you read my upper post, please? Question, I'm making a track with Tetris theme. They're coming from a Russian folk song. Google says the Russian folk song called that, but the Tetris company owns a trademark on this song in the video game market. Oh my god. So trademark is different from copyright, from what I can tell. But if they have a trademark, they probably also still use copyright. It's gonna depend on the track itself. Like if you're actually sampling that track, it's not gonna be it's not gonna be okay, right? But if you're just using the melody, I think it would be okay because it is in the public domain. Okay, so it does seem that we have a lot less buffering, which is good. So I'm just gonna start from the start again with this track, and we'll just listen from it from the start, and then we'll see. I guess I'll just have to switch to normal, and that seems to slightly fix the problem, but it's very, very strange because I've never had this issue, and I've been streaming, like ever since I started streaming, it has been okay, and I've streamed for like 2 years now, something like that, maybe even more, at least on YouTube. Anyway, Destiny by Insomniac, let's try again. I mean, if it sounds like the original track, then it's probably not a good idea to play it on stream. This sound here is a little bit loud. In Firefox there was no YouTube sound. Strange. I always get that message on stream. I also get a lot of messages regarding the audio bitrate, but my audio bitrate is like the maximum value that YouTube accepts. So I don't know what that's about. I'm not a fan of whatever clickiness is happening here. That kind of gritty on top of the bassline, I'm not a fan of that. In Chrome it works. They're just trying to push their own browser. That's what's happening here. So this part is a little bit higher energy because the heads are introduced here, right? But that's not reflected in the sound design. That kind of stays the same. I would also slightly up the sound design that you're doing. At least I would change it a little bit, make it a little bit more exciting. Also just change out some of the sounds. Here again. At this point when the kick fill happens and the snare comes in. Also, an offbeat closed hat, not yet the open hat. That's later for when you're going to the real high energy part of the track. But offbeat open hat that is just adding a little bit of extra brightness on top would be nice. So this would be the highest energy part here. It's not really reflected in the sound design. What you're doing is you're using the same sounds and then you're staying on the same level. You know what I mean? Like, if you hear the drums go up in energy, I would also expect the synths and stuff like that go up in energy. But we've heard this sound so many times now, it's like the same thing happening over and over again. So it's not really changing. It might be an invisible demonic energy playing with the servers. Might be, yes. At YouTube side, you never know. I think I already said it in the last one, but you need to clean up your kick and bass as well. The kick is okay, but the bass line, it's like all fading into each other. There's no real transient definition, right? This is going right up until the transient, and it might even be pushing into it. I couldn't tell the kick fill here, but we'll see later if that's clean as well. I'll try to pause it if I remember. You're not really using any sequences. It's almost like you're just trying to fill everything up with one shots. When it comes to your energy level, the low part or the part where you don't have a lot of energy, that's where you should be using one shots. But once you start building up the energy level, it starts to dive more into sequences, usually because you can sustain them and they kind of bring a consistent like upping in energy. Yeah, you can see the kicks are messing up, they're morphing into each other. This is supposed to be a clean transient just like this one. So you need to add phase, you need to resample your kick so that it actually becomes clean. It's just a bit monotone. Yeah, it's not like the sound isn't good, right? It's just that it's not evolving. Like this zap sound here, we've had this from the intro and it's just coming back every once in a while in the exact same way. Even the little arps that you're doing at the beginning, that's really cool, but now it's just the same arp over and over again. This one here, tun tun tun, and then tun tun tun. Sai, welcome. It's buffering a little for me, or please don't start again. No, it's okay. At the beginning, yeah, it should buffer a little bit, but after that it should just be, it should become better. Just better arrangement. Yes. As I said, the main thing is that your energy flow is like almost non-existent in the actual sound design part. Right? Your drums have it, but there's not really anything going on in the sound design that suggests that the energy level is actually changing. That's true, Glyph. It might work in a video game. It needs to have that kind of monotonous like energy and monotonous tone. It doesn't need to go up and down. But when you're trying to get it in the Psytrance track, what you're trying to do is you're trying to tell a story with the energy, tell a story with the sounds that you're using, right? At some point it just needs to be like that full power, everything is going on, and then at other parts where the DJ might want to mix it, there needs to be less stuff happening so that, you know, 2 tracks can play at once and your sound design is not overwhelming. Like in the outro that you had, I think that there's too many sounds in order for another track to sit on top of that and a DJ to really mix that in. Also, what is nice is if in the middle of the track that is being played in the set, it kind of goes down again. The reason for that is, say that you have this big moment, this big high energy moment where everything is happening, the kind of climax of your track. In a set, a DJ is going to mix it in from the start, and then the track is going to build to that climax, right? What you can do is, after that climax, just go to the kick and bass, only kick and bass, right? And then you can build it up again. That way you have kind of like 2 arcs of energy. Usually I end up going with 2, and I'll quickly show that as an example. So what would happen is, say that I have this track, the one that we talked about many times. You guys know this track here. I've played it many times on stream. Here is, for example, the low part. This is where you would mix it in. It's also the first part of the drop, so this is lower energy because the listener is not really used to the kick and bass yet because it just started playing. Kind of low stuff. There's some drums happening, some one-shots, Even here, I would argue it may be a little bit too full. But the one shots are still like very slow. Little stuff is happening. If you then go later, already more stuff is happening. And then the climax is, I think, right here. I guess there's two parts that become part of the climax here. But this is one here. Right, you can hear all the drums, this main harp kind of playing. This is really where all of the energy of the track sits. And then we're building up here and then we kind of drop it down. In this case, I added a synth sequence on top, but you could even decide to go to just kick and bass here. So you can hear that we're bringing the energy level down again. A DJ might mix out here at this point. It might play it further if they want, but from this point we can essentially build it up again. In this case, I decided to have a little break and then go into a progressive, so it doesn't really apply. So this is all progressive stuff, like a sliding kick and bass. Even here, like this is calmer than this part here. And then here, it's gonna build up, it's going to have more energy again. This is still very low energy, it's just the vocal on top. And then here, it's a little bit higher. We have some more sequences, some more stuff happening. We prepare the listener for the real high energy. And then here, it's full high energy again. Big sequence, big hype thing happening, you know, nice distorted sound in there. Another example is the thing that is happening here, which is this nice grid synth. Here the open hat comes in as well, so this would be technically the highest energy part here. You can also hear very FME, very distorted, very full sounding. A lot of things happening in terms of the one shots, that kind of thing. So this is the kind of flow that you're trying to build in a track, and I'm missing that from your production. Anyway, next up we have Virtual Instinct with Creepy Frequency, 148 BPM master. I always like when you guys send me mastered versions of tracks, because that means that you're committed and that it's finished, and then I can make feedback on like actual finished work. Anyway, this is, as I said, Creepy Frequency by Virtual Instinct. Some nice atonal sound design here. I'm a fan. Okay, I'm not a fan of the way that you're transitioning into the kick and bass. In my opinion, there should be more announcement happening. I think you cleaned it up. I don't know what's happening to this transient here. Why it's just kind of going to one side. I don't think that's a problem. What I would like is maybe a little bit more click from your transient in general. I think the clap is too loud. I don't like its hollow low frequency here either. Sound design is really good. Overall, your closed hi-hats, they can use a little bit more groove, a little bit more side chaining, you know, so that they have more power towards that offbeat. Your open hats can have more high frequencies. It should really have more presence in here because it's that high energy kind of part. Right now the open head sounds like it's playing here. I prefer it when it's sticking around that 10k area, that it's really nice, crispy and airy. Same is true for the clap really. You can see the clap's main energy is this around 1k. I would have that shifted upwards a lot more. I think my problem with the closed heads that you're using is the fact that they don't have any groove. The fact that they are just same volume all the time, tick, 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 tick. Yeah, this is nice. I like this. Going back to a lower energy here so that you can start building it up again or prepare for some kind of breakdown or something like that. Yeah, that clap sounds very strange. Missing a little bit in your tracks is the slide into it. I heard it here when you were going into the breakdown as well. Right, when you had this big kick impact but nothing was announcing that it was happening. A little slide into it would be nice. Buffering. Yes, now it's buffering. I don't see anything on my end. Back, I think. Maybe I just didn't catch it, but I didn't see anything happening on my OBS. It is off to the side a little bit, so maybe I was too focused on the music here. Came back. Perfect. What I just mentioned is the fact that, again, you can see it here as well. You don't have to do it all the time because it can be nice just having that impact. But sometimes when you have like an impact sound, like the kick that you had in your breakdown, having a little slide into it. It could have been one of those traditional like issues that we had right before. You remember every time that I used to stream, it hasn't happened in a while, but it just would drop out for like 10 seconds. Set mine 2 minutes behind the live and it's running fine, so probably YouTube just being done. It might be, yeah. I would like to see some more bass melodies. It's been the same melody, I think, for a few drops now. It is okay also to sometimes just go back to just static bassline, because that is really, really powerful, not having a melody. It's not that it's groovy. Yeah, but you can hear it here. I think what is happening is that you set your phase at the initial bass that you're making a little bit too close to the click of the saw wave. So let's say that you set it to 180 degrees. I would set it to like 175 or something like that, so that you capture a little bit more of that click, which you then phase out, you know what I mean? Still laggy. I think this is just YouTube issues. I'm gonna try to power through, and at least it will be on the recording, which should be okay. Yeah, there's not a lot of impact happening in here, or there's a lot of impact happening in your track, but there's not a lot of preparation for the impacts. The final thing that I would say on that track is a lot of the sound design that you're doing isn't necessarily in rhythm, I felt like, with the track. Like there was a lot of wobbly things happening, and I feel like that is ruining the groove a little bit. So maybe what you could do is try to be a little bit tighter with your sound design. Um, and freeform phase is a perfect tool to set phase between minus 180 degrees and up, but that's not what I meant. What I meant in this case has to do with your sound design for the bass itself. Oh. There we are. So if you make a bass, right? Depending on the patch, you're going to have different needs for this phase knob. There are some people I know in chat that have it right here, not close to the click, and then they resample from here. But what I like to do is I like to have it right before that click happens. Whatever preset that you're using, maybe you're using some kind of wavetable, say that you're using this wavetable by me, right? The process wavetable here. If you're using this, I like to have it right before the click so that this click kind of comes through. What I think you were doing is that you're a little bit into the click. I cannot zoom in here, but I think you get the point where if you were to exaggerate it, you're like right here, right after the click happens. And then with the attack is kind of, even if you set it exactly at 180 degrees, which is technically where the click exists, the attack is kind of cutting out the very first part of the click. And you want a little bit of attack so that you don't actually get that kind of digital click from the sound just suddenly starting to play. So in that case, what I would do in your sound design is go a little bit back to maybe 177, 174, this kind of range, maybe even up until like 170. It's gonna depend on what the sound actually needs. But you want a little bit of room for that attack to come through so that the click actually comes through at full volume. What about streaming on Twitch? I did stream on Twitch. I found the experience to be a little bit of a hassle. Mainly because it is really hard to drive viewers from YouTube to Twitch and from Twitch to YouTube. Having everything in one channel, in one area, in one space, is just a lot better for that space in itself to grow. And I don't really want to divide up my community between part of the community that watches me on YouTube and part of the community that watches me on Twitch. Also, I have 11,000 subscribers here and I have like 200 followers on Twitch, so I would be stepping down massively in just the overall popularity of my stream. Because I do know for a fact that a lot of you guys, when you start watching me, you get a notification from YouTube that says that I'm live, and you click the notification, and that's how you start looking at the stream. It's not necessarily true that the same is happening for Twitch. I kind of look like him with the beard. I mean, my beard has been bigger. I don't know what he looks like. Is he bald as well? Does he have this kind of massive forehead here? The headphones hide it a little bit, but the forehead is indeed massive. I can totally see him making techno in the future when he has enough of sidetrends and following the mainstream trend like most artists. I keep my love for techno very, very, very secret. I have tried to make it a few times, but I just can't. Like, I've tried to follow the tutorial from, what's his name? Underdog Studios or whatever? The other bald guy, the techno bald guy. Let's see if I can... Yeah, Underground Electronic Music School. If I look like anyone, I look like this guy in, I think, like in a couple of years, once I buy a couple of tank tops. But he has a Rumble Bass tutorial that I followed. This one here is really good. He is way better at explaining stuff than I am. But yeah, I try to follow his tutorials once in a while, but I'm not that great at it. I'm like a younger version of him, but for psytrance. Yeah, that's why we look a little bit different. It's because we produce different genres. Otherwise, we would be identical, inseparable. Anyway, enough of that nonsense. Let's move on to the next track. This is Infrashell with Plasma Petroglyph mastered. Again, I'm glad for the mastered version. I like that. Let's see what this is. Very nice dark start. Kick and bass could be cleaner. I like the tonality of it. That fill is coming very soon. I would wait another 8 bars with that. Or make it shorter. Right, you can do a fill like that, but you would do it like 2 beats, maybe 4 beats, maybe 1 bar, but not 2 bars. Also, since you're doing that kind of ringing bit crust bass, what I would personally do is lower that volume a little bit, because I like to bring more attention to the kick transient than the bass transient. And the bass transient feels relatively dark, even in regards to the normal transient of your bass. Right, the kick transient doesn't really shine through in this like 9K, 8K area, which could give it a little bit more impact if you did that. Am I from Germany? I'm Dutch. He's from Belgium, by the way.
He's a massive mass hypnotist to the global mind. And what happens is it is implanting a belief in reality by the mind. And then once we take on that belief, implanted, when information enters the eyes, we edit it on the basis of that belief. And so
good vocal mix.
The population is subjected.
I was waiting for something to ruin this vocal mix, but it never came.
Literally mass hypnosis.
Good job. I like that. That's perfect. Not a lot of other elements in the way that can ruin it. Not a lot of other elements in the way that can mask it. So, very well done. It's not often that I get to say that. Okay, here it makes sense that you're low passing so quickly and then kind of going into the breakdown, but I feel like overall this track is spending a lot of time transitioning, maybe a little bit too much for the kind of track that I think you're trying to aim for. You can spend a little bit more time with just the kick and bass open, I feel. Nice setup for the next drop. Oh. I was hoping that the kick and bass would just come on that one synth that was just playing. Right when the filtered kick and bass came in, I would just have gone with straight kick and bass. Especially since you're going for a little bit more of a darker psychedelic track, I don't think that the breakdown needs to be this long. I can see the waveform in advance, so I know that this is, in my opinion, a little bit too long of a breakdown. Here, there's a lot of things masking that effect that you have there. If you're gonna do a build-up like that, I would stop everything, and then you have the ooh, and then you go into this. It does need to be cleaned up, as you can see, mainly like here. You can see the kick kind of going up here, right? So that's a very good sign of the kick and bass not being clean. It does feel a little bit busy. One of the things that I'm worried about is the placement of the hats in the mix. For one, I'm not a big fan of the 32 notes on the bass here. What I'm also not a fan of is that at every end of the drop, as I said, with the transitions, you're doing a lot of transition. The key of transitions, I'm a big fan of transitions. I like to do them, but the key of them is that there's a special moment in the track. So if every end of the drop segment when you're going into a fill, I like that you're sectioning, that's good, that's all perfect. But you need to have a little bit of distinction, right? One part of the track you just go straight kick and bass all the way up until the fill, and then you have like a big drum or something like that, and then the next part maybe add a build up and you high pass, right? That traditional high pass thing. Then the next segment you go into, for example, you have the next segment which is about to go into the breakdown, you can low pass there, right? So those are three different ways of transitioning: doing nothing, doing a high pass, and then doing a low pass. If you're doing high pass and then the next one high pass and then the next one high pass, it starts to feel boring. It starts to feel like, oh, we're doing the same thing over and over again. And I think that's one of the biggest things that you should avoid here. Sorry, that's the autoplay. I wouldn't mind the autoplay if it wasn't for the fact that it always suggests completely irrelevant music. Just give that banging melody some space and it will sound great. I do agree, yes. That area felt a little bit full. I hear this is my very first Sidetrance track. I got a little bit overexcited. That's actually very good for a very first one. I would agree. Maybe as you're saying with the post-processing that you're doing, it felt a little bit squashed. That is part of that is just the way that you wrote that, right? When you write that track and everything is so full, like the way you were doing in that one segment there, it feels like the limiter and the compressor and your mastering stuff is working really, really hard to keep that in check. And part of that has to do with the fact that in the production you're not really giving 100% or you're not really giving a lot of space to some of the elements. Actually, Eclipse just recently posted a video on simplicity in Sidetrance. For a first Sidetrance track, this is really, really good. Damien Atomic Ant with Untitled.mp3 is up next. Not PT, I am assuming that means Sidetrance, but the trap beat inspired by all the sounds I found while learning Sidetrance production. Let's see. kick feels very weak. Overall, the drums could use a little bit of extra power. I know that sample. I think I used that in my masterclass. The high end of the drums doesn't really come through. Here, the loudest part of the track is that effect sound. At least like in relative loudness, right? In the way that we actually hear it. In my opinion, the kick should be the loudest, then your 808, then you have your snare, then you have your hi-hats, and then everything else. I want to see your kick and bass here. I think if I pause it in the right time. It's a really strange kick. It has a very strong click, but it doesn't feel like it has any punch or bass. Suddenly this thing is starting to give me input lag sometimes. It's always the same thing. It's always this filter up to the eagle sound. There's more punch in the 808 when the kick is not playing. I think they're phase cancelling. I think that's what's happening. At this point I'm becoming a little bit bored of the main loop as well. Could turn it down an octave maybe. Limiter is hardly doing anything if I'm honest. It might not be the limiter, it might be your whole chain. I don't know what else you're using. Feels a bit incoherent. Yes. I do agree, yes. There's not a lot of storytelling to this, right? Well, technically for a trap beat, this is just the background, so it's I assume that somebody is supposed to rap on top of this. When it comes to that, the sound that you used as like your main melodic element sounds like it's going to really combat a lot of vocals, because it's really taking up this space at around like 2K, 1 to 2K here, like this area here. This fade out is taking way too long as well. It's taking almost 20 seconds to fade out. I hope you can do something with that. Let me know if that was helpful. I'm gonna be honest, this is not my style. I'm really a sidetrance producer, so I don't really know what to look for. I tried to point out some of the things that I heard, but I hope that it's helpful. Anyway, next up we have Earthling and Moth Mang, Goa Bass 2. What's up guys, got some new Psy Jungle style stuff, definitely interested in some feedback. I wonder what you mean by Psy Jungle style stuff. I like this, nice atmosphere in the beginning. A little bit of a build up to nothing. There could have been a nice fade out from there as well. I like this. This is very clean. Earthling is very close to Earthling, which is an established Psytrance artist. Hence the why. It might be his old account. Like, it just does this stuff on the side and he's hiding his identity. It is very well produced, so I wouldn't be surprised if it was. I do really like this. This is very well done. Everything is clean, everything is strong. The only thing I would say here, now that the vocal atmosphere is coming in, I personally don't like that strong of a sidechain on something like an atmosphere here. It's much easier to just tone it down a few dB if you have to. If you need that kind of sidechain to mix it in, just tone it down a couple of dB. So it's more of a background element, and then not sidechain it so much. My next alias will be Asterix. I'm mostly a bass music artist, so I'm very new to the Psytrance world. I follow Shanti Panti a good bit. It is very nice. It is very strong. Very well done. You can definitely tell that you're experienced in making bass music, because it's the kind of mixing style that you really see in bass music. Infrashell said it before. It's a mix of CTZ, which stands for clip to zero, a method popularized by Bevmetrics, I think. Usually when it comes to Psytrance, we don't like to use the clip to zero method. At least personally, I don't really like to use it. The reason for that is Psytrance is loud, yes, but it's very, very clean in terms of its mixing style. When it comes to mixing Psytrance, we don't tend to distort too much. And that's technically what clippers do. They just distort the things that kind of go over them. We use clippers, obviously, to catch peaks. But we're not using it to get that kind of distorted, pumping almost feeling that you get with the clip to zero method. The clip to zero method is really meant for balls to the walls kind of loudness, right? Where you don't really care about how would you say that? About the cleanliness of the mix. When I say cleanliness in this case, I don't mean kick and bass cleanliness. I mean like not generating too much saturation. When it comes to mixing, you're always going to need a little bit of saturation. I'm also not talking about the little bit of tone that you want, the little bit of nice grittiness that sometimes a mix is mixing a little bit. A mix is missing a little bit. But when it comes to clip to zero method, you're really kind of almost introducing it to create that kind of square wave version of a mix that you'll get when you use the clip to zero method. I was testing boundaries. It is pushing boundaries the way that you mix your track, yes. Especially with that last part where it was really balls to the wall, everything playing, that big saw lead came in and that's taking up a lot of the space. It's also just about attention, right? When you have to imagine that Psytrance is listened to by people who are tripping balls on the dance floor. Your track needs to be understandable as well for people to really get into the flow of things and really dance well to it. So that's the thing that you need to keep in mind. You cannot really go too complex in terms of the different switches and things that you're doing. That's why you often see that Psytrance is just sections in like, okay, 16 bars, I do some cool sound design. Here you have the cool sound design. Let's move on to the next section. 16 bars, I add some drums, I add some more cool sound design. Now I have some more things that you can take into account, right? There's hard clipping and it would have been cleaner. Yes, the reason why we use hard clipping in Psytrance is, for those that don't know, a soft clipper is a clipper that starts working under its ceiling. So it will have a transfer curve that looks like this, whereas a hard clipper, it just looks like this and this, right? Where at the ceiling it's just flat and everything below it is linear. Right, it's a linearity up until the ceiling, and then after that it just becomes like a flat line and it doesn't go above the ceiling whatsoever. We tend to use mainly hard clippers when we're mixing in, for example, our total drum group. And the reason for that is it is the cleanest under the ceiling. Asterix. Anyway, next Next track is Call Me Amir with B96F01111543A6A0B.mp3. Nice! You guys are really just doing this to bully me, I think, for mispronouncing things. It's missing the lyric, but it's nice. Still an idea. Hope I can finish this. Let's see. Okay, just a click. I'm assuming that this is where it's supposed to start. If that click is actually in your project, I would obviously remove it. It feels a little bit empty now, but if you're gonna add vocals on top of this, then you definitely want to leave some space. Some extra chords wouldn't hurt here though. And suddenly it comes through. That might be... You have to work your vocal around that, right? A little bit more progressive than other things that we see, but I do like it. Very well done. Kick and bass is clean, at least the normal one, because it's just stopping here. That's a good way to handle that. Here we can see some more latency issues there. I wanted to see the other one, the slide. Let's see if I can catch it now. I missed it. There we are. Yeah, this is clean. Nice. Well done. You can see the transient. Even though there's stuff happening all the way up to here, what you're actually looking at is the transient itself, right? Like a transient like this, does it match this one here where stuff is happening before? Yes. Okay, that means that nothing is actually bleeding into this kick. Which is, I mean... You could argue that you want a little bit of stuff kind of fading out here, whatever you're doing. I think that's just the sound design of the bass. Like here, the kick is just going to have the strongest amount of punch ever, because the bass line actually stops a significant amount before the kick. Whereas... Hey man, is this live? I can't seem to get the live feed. This is live, yes. I'm talking to you now. Do you believe me now? It is a little bit higher latency than usual, so keep that in mind. But anyway, in regards to the kick, this is going to have maximum, like the most amount of punch that you want, because it just stops completely and then the kick plays. Here you're going to lose a little bit of that punch. You could argue, okay, that's going to give my bassline a little bit more power, having that longer, and that's okay. It's going to depend on the style that you want. But the kick itself is clean, and that's really, from a technical standpoint, that's all that matters. The silence before it is more aesthetically, right? How much punch do I really want it? This is pre-recorded. He knew that you were going to ask this. Yes, it is pre-recorded, and I predicted all of your chat messages. That's why they pop on the stream exactly when you type them. I'm actually an intellectual genius, if you cannot tell, and that's how I do it. That's how I can prove it. All of this is pre-recorded, and the chat messages, I put them in this afternoon, and I know exactly what you guys are going to say. Nothing can surprise me. Like, try it. Say something that you weren't going to say. Now I can see the latency. If there wasn't this big latency, people would already be typing in the chat. We actually can't see the chat since you restarted the stream. You cannot see the chat? Oh. Oh. Okay. It's good. I cannot tell because when I'm doing these feedback streams, I have Discord on top of my OBS. So I cannot actually see my OBS window. I'm gonna leave. It's constantly buffering and it's falling further and further behind. I don't hear what you said to me. The link from the bot gives me a 404. Oh. Oh, right. I think I know why. You mean for the tip? For the donation? Custom commands. Yeah, it's this one. I thought I updated that the other one, the other link. Timers. Apparently I didn't update this one. Anyway, if you want the link that the bot was trying to send you to, this is it. This is where you can donate to the stream. I think the way that I've set it up, it's gonna be hard to tell if this is gonna work now, given that I had to restart the stream. But this is the tip link. This link allows you to donate to the stream. It should pop up a message, I think, the way that I've set it up. I'm not entirely sure, but we'll have to see. Either way, we're going to go to Stain. I need to learn a lot more about the sound and stuff. I made this short sound and it's not finished. I'd like to have some advice from you. I just start with Ableton. Let's see, Stain. Let's see. It's actually a very long file, but most of it is empty. We'll see. Very mono intro. Telling me that it's not fully mono here. Exactly here. I was expecting that kick and bass to be darker. You also need to clean it. Here you can see the kick is melting into the bass line. I'm also not really a fan of the techno style kick. Psytrance tends to be cleaner in terms of the kick, even for this kind of dark genre. You don't really tend to hear that kind of knock, almost distorted kind of techno kick that you have going on here. I do really like your sound design. It's good stuff going on here. That's strange. I do like this kick and bass a little bit more. It needs a lot more work, but tonally I like it more. It's just a strange idea to switch kick and bass halfway through the track. That's usually not done. I don't like the low volume of this bass line though. Also the offbeat hi-hat, only on the offbeat, not on the kick itself. That's the main thing. You want that to accentuate the offbeat. The kick doesn't really need accentuation because it's the loudest part of the mix already. Lacking low end. Yes, this part is lacking a little bit of low end. At least the bass line. The kick not so much. The kick is good. Overall, the track is just lacking volume as well. Keep that in mind. Keep in mind that this isn't mastered or anyway. What I think you should really try to improve on the most though is the track flow, right? Things like risers, downlifters, that kind of stuff. You do seem to have a very sectioned track where things aren't really kind of flowing into the next segment, like the way that the kick and bass just kind of started playing here. Things just, it just kind of started, there was a little fade into it, but what tends to happen is that you automate some of the like sound design that you're doing as well, so that that rises into the actual kick and bass. And you do that throughout the drop as well. When you want to transition from one section to the next, you tend to adapt the sound design and a lot of the sequences. What I like to do is maybe like a high pass to some of them, that kind of stuff, so that the whole track is kind of building up to the next section. Let's see. Next up we have Crappy Army, 143 BPM F sharp by Man Who Isn't an Artist, finally doing a sensible BPM here. Although I see that the track that he submitted after that is 200 BPM, so we're going right back into craziness from him. Anyway, this is Crappy RP. I said Army I think, but I meant RP. It always tells me, Istro or Man Who Isn't an Artist, that your tracks, it cannot scan them for viruses. So it assumes that there are viruses in there. I'm not really a fan of the random drum sounds. Bassline still feels a lot too open here. Like you have the transient and then it should be closing a little bit more here. I do like the cleanliness. You could, if you... What was happening there? That part of the track? Or is that just like an error? That's an error. That's a mistake. You want to remove that. Whatever you're doing there. You could argue for your bassline that this last oscillation doesn't really need to be here, and that would give a little bit more power to the actual transient here. But what would give you a lot more power is if you close your bassline a little bit more. Close that envelope a little bit more on your bassline. Sound design feels like it's kind of happening at random. Detected the virus TI, yes. I'm not a fan of the hats, whatever you're doing with the hats and the reversing and it's being off the grid. Overall, when it comes to the placement of your elements, you should definitely look at the reference track on how sequences and stuff like that are placed. I mean, this ARP here, that works, but that's going constantly. I said it, I think, before. You have a tendency to place everything in terms of sound design in segments, and it just goes from one segment into the next and into the next. Which normally, when you're arranging, that's the way that you want to do it, but with the sound design itself, that's not really what you want to do. One of the things you'll see if you fix your baseline, how open it is, if you close that a lot more, you're gonna have a lot more space in the mix as well. Like this synth sound here, the glitch sound, it just sounds random. There's not really a pattern that we can really dance to, if you know what I mean.
Get down.
What's happening here? Why is that turning off? Are you using some kind of demo plugin that sometimes turns off the volume? Random vocal shouts without any processing. It's a little bit strange. A little bit of a strange decision here. Yeah, you guys can see how much mid-range is present in the bassline right there. It kind of doesn't close, I would say, below this area here. Like there's a little bit of click in the real high frequencies, but it doesn't close. We can check where it is. Under 2000 Hertz. Usually I close down to maybe here-ish, and we have that click in there. That open hi-hats sounds really randomly placed. Yeah, this is the way that's supposed to be. Now you have the groove going on, something that you can actually dance to. And here then, this sound is out of the rhythm. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, the synth sound complements the kick and bass. They should... Or the groove of the track actually, because the groove of the track is also made out of the drums. Might be onto something, Aiden. A lot of people think 200 BPM is too much. I'm also personally not a fan of that really fast high tech. He usually also does stuff like 230. I'm not a fan of that, but 200 I can handle. Like here also, the sound design doesn't complement any rhythm. This is what I meant with your sectioned stuff happening. You have 1 bar of sound, 1 bar of not that sound. 1 bar of sound, 1 bar of not that sound. 1 bar of sound, 1 bar of not that sound. That becomes really boring really quickly. I would spend a little bit more time looking at reference tracks and how they actually structure their sound design. And here you can hear, but you can also see that this is just way too open of a bass sound. You're high passing it right now at like 2 kilohertz, and you could see that almost the whole sustain was still there. Also, there's something at the end there. I don't know if you want that. Next up, okay, so everybody prepare now. We're going into Sound Ninja, again by Man Who Isn't an Artist. And this is 200 BPM G. You will like if you see my 205 BPM track. As I said, 200 BPM is my... It's starting to get close to the limit, so 205 is going to be too much. My limit is around 300, I think. I think that's too much. Again, it's telling me that there's some virus in here, but I'm just gonna play it. Maybe you do use the virus TI for your sound design.
大したことないと思うけど。
Still too open on the kick and bass. I do like this one more tonally. It could use a little bit more space for the transient here. As I said, you don't necessarily need that last oscillation, and you actually get a lot of punch from the transient itself if you leave that out. Kind of like you did for the kick. That's good. The cleanliness overall, it is okay, like technically. It's just aesthetically you could do a little bit more. This part I like, the way that you're doing this, where you have one sequence playing all the way and then another one every once in a while coming on top of it. Here the sequences make a lot more sense. They're even working together with like the kick itself and stuff like that, the kick and bass, the kind of groove that you're setting up there. Here we're going again back in that kind of switching thing that you're doing between two sounds. You know what I mean? That becomes really boring, that kind of switch there. Here the bass line for some reason loses all of its power. Again, as cool as the sound design may be that you're doing for these sounds here, they become really boring. The way that you're just kind of switching every bar and the basic arps that you're using and that kind of stuff. Not enough space for the vocals, especially in the high frequencies. You want to probably remove all of this kind of high frequency dense stuff that you're doing here to make space for the vocals.
俺たちに古くせえ体術なんて通じねえんだよ。俺は超音波と空気圧を自由に操り、地面に空気を送り込んで土をクッションに変えることも思いのままだ。
Audio files can't have an executable viruses in them anyway, especially when you're playing them in browser from Google Drive. I don't have any live scanning on here. I do have like the passive scanning, the one that I can just turn on manually, but I don't have any active scanning, at least I don't think, turned on, so that wouldn't be an issue here. I could check, I will check after the stream if that's the case, but honestly I don't think that that's the issue here. This is again a better part in terms of the way that you're sequencing things. I'm never gonna love this kind of snare that has such a like low fundamental talk to it. That kind of snare that you're using here. I'm not a fan of it. I like just noise snares in the high frequencies. At this point, this stream is lagging too much. I can't tell if it's the high tech or the live. Is it lagging again? Are we still having connection issues? I do see that slowly I'm dropping viewers, but that's kind of normal for a stream like this, as people's tracks are like I like this transition. That's a good transition. The way that you're transitioning into the melodic thing here. As people's tracks get feedbacked on, they tend to leave. So I feel like the drop off is normal, but I can do another poll later. I don't have issues with the stream. Okay. I'll do another poll later to see if people have buffering issues. Okay, so suddenly the rhythm is broken here. That's very strange. Even here, you're technically not doing the sequencing, like you're not having sequencing problems in the sense that it's a bar, but towards the end there it was beats, right? Chunk, 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 chunk. Every beat had like a different sound design thing happening on it. Your track is suffering from this issue. It becomes really boring because of the way that you're placing the sequences and the sound design and all of that stuff, in that you're just doing it in segments, and the segments are always the same. The second thing is the openness of your kick and bass. I've talked to you about this many times. You should just change that, because honestly it doesn't sound good. It sounds like the bass line is just kind of gritty and like it's doing that, right? It doesn't have that punch, it doesn't have that impact that you want from the bass line. So close your bass line more, close your envelope more. And the final thing, in really, if you want to learn all of this stuff, what I would do is use more reference tracks. Because if you're using reference tracks, you will definitely hear that there's a difference, like a fundamental difference in the way that you write music versus the reference track. Export tracks at 1/4 speed. That could work. That would make this track better. No, I'm kidding. I do like the 200 BPM. Next up, we have our first Patreon submission in a long while. I should have put this earlier, but I didn't actually catch it. Yeah, so this guy is a Patreon, so I will play his track, and then after that I'll take a little break, because it has been, even though the stream has been on for 1 minute and 20, because we had that little break, which didn't really feel like a break for me, I will take a break in a little bit. A few feedback back, you told me to open the bass line more. I think I told you more click. Because I remember a lot of your tracks, even in the beginning, at the beginning you didn't even use an envelope on the kick and bass. It was just like a flat filter on top of it. Do I have time to listen to your track too? I do have time to listen to your track after my break. But right now I'm going to be listening to Psychedelic Underground Records, also known as Kliss Nightmare, Tripping Through Dimensions. At the beginning your kick and bass was completely open. There was no envelope on it whatsoever. And I think then at some point I told you to make it a little bit more clicky at the beginning, so that's just how far the envelope goes. but the mid-range was too much in this one. And that's the rest of the envelope, right? I cannot tell with the atmosphere on top of it if the baseline is clean, but I'm assuming that this is clean looking at the waveform. Like, these transients are nice. I cannot tell here, obviously, because the other thing on top of it. Your kick rolls aren't clean though, so you should resample there. At this point, if you're gonna go with that fast of a sequence, I would also add your closed hats on top of it. And here you should keep your open hat, because this is high energy stuff that is happening here. Yeah, like this. That should have been on the other sequences as well. I would like to hear a fill every once in a while, not just rolling kicks every time. Like you're doing the same rolling kick every time. That doesn't sound good to me. There should be variation between all of your fills. In this case, I'm saying fills a little bit differently because this isn't technically a fill. This is still keeping all of the energy. At some point, you just want to hear for a bar that you're just stopping the kick and bass, maybe a drum fill, maybe something else, so that we can take a break. Is a SoundCloud link enough for me? Yes, you can post that in feedback on stream, as always, which is my Discord server. Right here, you go to feedback on stream and you paste it right here to be put in the queue. Your sound design is very unique. I do really like their sound design here. If I were you, Histro, I would take notes from this, because I think that this is where you should end up with the way that you should be sequencing things and stuff like that. And even the kick and bass like sound from it sounds a lot better than the one that Histro had, in my opinion. I can't watch the stream anymore. I'm at my lowest resolution and have lag every few seconds. It's really strange. I have no idea what's going on here. The melody didn't really feel finished here. Thank you for sticking around, Aiden. I'm sorry that the stream doesn't work for you. That's really unfortunate. Okay, at this point your baseline is way too high. Even here, like, you're on the edge of what you should do with your bassline in terms of the key here. So that last one was way too high. Yeah, this is E1. This is... I would say that this is even too high. I would go to E0 here. This is more like it. Nice, powerful, low frequencies. This is way too high. We're at B2 here. Obviously B1, but I'm looking at the first or the second harmonic technically. I wouldn't go above C sharp 1. with the fundamental of your bass line. This is a very good example of good sequencing in my opinion. This is something Histro can learn from here. He's doing the same kind of sound design as he does, but one sequence continues throughout the whole thing, and then the other one is doing this like weep weep weep, and then something else, you know what I mean? And it's just kind of going over top of it. As opposed to one bar this, one bar that, one bar this, one bar that. If I was partying into this at a big festival, I would lose my mind. I think it's too complex to really dance to. There's so much happening, so many fills, so many little rolls, so many different things that this is... The vocal is by far not processed enough. I do really love your use of guitars in here. I'm always a fan of distorted guitars. It is some very crazy program. This is the kind of programming that it's like you're not really supposed to dance to it. You're supposed to listen to it in the peace and mind of your own home as a other producer and just admire the complexity. You know what I mean? Also, the vocal for the track comes in very late. It came in only after 6 minutes. Only a very special crowd is going to appreciate this kind of music. Also, your guitar were very, very mono. You should make them more stereo. Funk psytrance, yes. Anyway, I'm going to take a quick break. As you guys know, I do need to sometimes refresh my ears. Which track would I put on? I did work on this track, but it's not finished enough for me to play it. I don't really have enough tracks to play. A lot of the things I want to kind of keep secret. You can see a lot of tracks here, but I'm keeping a bunch of them a secret. So that when they actually come out, actually guys haven't heard them before. So I'll just play this track again. You guys know it. It's the one that I cited earlier for the structure thing at, I guess, the beginning of this stream, I think. Maybe even the one before, technically. It's a side chill song at 25% speed, yes. So yeah, I'll be right back once this track is finished, and then we'll get back into the other tracks. There's still one more track submitted right now, but you guys can obviously submit more tracks if you want. But yeah, I'll be right back. I think you guys know which track this is, right?
being a player, to me, that's one thing. It's a fun game. But where the real fruit is in the social aspect, where you get to meet people and play them a game and have a fun, competitive game. You do the best you can, but if you don't win, you won anyway. Because when you lose, you win too. Because if you're paying attention, you learn stuff.
Turned off the wrong thing there. Quickly going to set up another poll for you guys to see if there's still buffering issues.
Whatever you want to do, believe it, believe it, believe it, even if you don't believe. Play the game, believe, believe.
Nice track, thank you. I've played this so many times, I know. Hopefully soon I have some new music that I can actually show. I did see some people have buffering issues again in the chat, so I just want to know. I can also see my viewership slowly declining, so that could also be another indication. Or maybe my stream is just very, very boring today. Definitely seems more conclusive towards no right now. But maybe the people that have issues with buffering aren't voting because they don't see the stream. Like, the curve for viewers here, this is a pretty rough curve. You know what I mean? It going down from 21 viewers to 10. So this is usually an indication that people are dropping out, stuff like that. Because usually it tends to be the case that it stays somewhat the same. So I don't know what's going on here. Good music in general. What's happening to my... Ah, okay. We're back. Anyway, next up we have Talisman by Cocoon, or Earthling Official. Here's another one from a trio group. It's more a side dubby thing. Let's see. Yeah, that's why I said they left the stream because of the buffering. So maybe the people, as I said, the people that have buffering issues just leave. From what I can tell, this could be an indication of that. Very muffled track. A lot of the details aren't really coming through. Fairly muddy in the mid-range here as well. There's a lot of things going on and all of them have a lot of details. A very muddy mix here. Not just in the like mid-range here, even in the higher frequencies, because you have that constant range stuff going on. At the point where you're introducing your other high-end, you don't really want that kind of a high-end muffling over it. This is a lot better, but I think the bass is too strong here, the sub-bass. It is still very complex. Maybe a bit too much, right? I think there's too much going on in this track, and overall it feels a bit, as I said, like things are covering each other up. Alvin Tep, how are you doing? Welcome. I think one of the big things that is causing your problems is the lack of compression on your bassline. You could see the dynamics of the bassline just really going up and down. Do you have some tips on how to get clean bassline after mastering with EQs? Yes, don't master with EQs. Do your EQing in the mix and then clean your kick and bass after. No, don't do that. Don't use the stereo shaper, because that's a multiband processor, so you're going to introduce massive phase shift. I hope it's not too late to send in a request. Definitely not. Go for it. Yeah, there's way too much going on in this part here even. And again, you can see the bassline dynamics kind of, it goes down and it goes up again. That kind of thing. You don't really want that. You want to compress this a lot more, the bassline. So that you deal with a normalized, like the same volume every time. I do also feel like this is lacking a little bit of just like the kind of cleanliness that I talked about before, in that the kick is being muffled by the bassline. Overall, the kick doesn't really have a lot of punch and a lot of sub-end or sub-bass. Sub-end, low-end. The multiband compressors also not? No. To be honest, when it comes to my mastering, I like to use a glue compressor. I go for the Shadow Hills mastering compressor. Then I like to go into a clipper, and then I like to go into my maximizer or my mastering limiter. All of them are wideband, so no multiband stuff happening. They just over the whole frequency spectrum they work. Because when you're doing stuff like this, phasing issues can really mess up, even in such a late stage, your actual like kick and bass cleanliness and that relationship. really, when it comes to any other genre where that's not important, if you're mixing pop or rock or something like that, then it's not important. But when we're looking at psytrance or even this kind of music where you have a very strong sub bass that is playing right up until the kick, if you do any kind of phase shift, then it's just going to destroy that kick. I'm not a fan of the mix. I like the production, even though I would say that the production is a little bit overproduced in that there's a few too many elements happening. The mix is definitely holding this track back. If you want, I can mix it for you. Just send me a DM and we'll discuss something. I want to kill my phase issues. It's not the end-all be-all, to be honest. Like, okay, I'll show you like my typical mastering chain. I have a track right here. One of the things to keep in mind is that the cleanliness of the kick and bass, I didn't really clean this, but this kind of mastering chain that I would do only works when the bassline and the kick and bassline is already clean, right? That's a given. But when I would master this, the way that I would go for that is, as I said, I would use my Shadow Hill. I really like this kind of compressor. Let me just find the appropriate place here. This needs to be 143, 5? I don't remember. Is this 147? It's 147. Okay. So I'll loop the loudest part here. I will set this to the sidechain in. We would like a sidechain filter so that it doesn't react too much to the low end. And I'm just going to set the threshold here. Like this. I want to shave off 1 dB here. Discrete ratio goes to 2 here. I like to copy settings over here, basically from the start, even though it's currently only using this part here. We're going to set it to maybe dual mono and check that out later. I'm then going to set up this one here. Can get a little bit more gain. Here I go between 1 and 2 dB of gain reduction. So something like this. And now we can copy over those settings as well. That's 11. This one is to 11. And then I can check. I like this one the most in this case. And then I can check dual mono. It's not going to make a big difference. Dual mono means that it's using this side for the left and this, or this side for the right and this side for the left. And stereo it uses both this side here. What that also means is that in this case, the left and right channel can have different kinds of compression on them. With a track like this, it's not really going to. Maybe in this case. Yeah, you can see this one is doing a little bit more than this one here. You can see that the right channel is also louder than the left here, right? What did I click? Okay, whatever. The Cayenne track was from a few years ago, so I learned quite a lot since then. That's good. Now what I would do, because I have like fully cleaned, or the kick and bass in our example is fully clean, it's not like I cannot go in here and go into my EQ and just do a little bit of EQing if I want to, right? Say that I go here and I say, I want mainly in the high end, little bit of extra spice here. I want that little dip at around this area here. What I wouldn't do is, for example, something like this. This is going to introduce phase shift in the low frequencies. We don't really want that. What you can maybe do is say at around 150 Hertz if you really need it. Just like a small boost. What you never want to do is go in here and do something like this. I see so many people do this, right? Where they say, oh, I'm going to remove everything under 30 Hertz with a very steep filter. Never do this. Stop doing this. This is going to ruin all of your masters. We could check the waveform for that if you really want to. If I open up SciScope, you should be able to see what's going on here if I bring it to a little bit of a cleaner part. So you see the kick here? Nice kick, transient in the middle, turn this on, transient is all fucked. So don't do that. But even now, with the EQ on here, look how clean this is. Look how clean. There's a little bit of pushing in here. Remember, this is a full mix, not just the kick and bass, so it's always going to be a little bit more messy. But overall, this is acceptable in terms of its cleanliness. And then my final stages is going to be a... I like to use a plugin called FreeClip. This is free, as the name suggests. I like to go with a little bit of oversampling at 0 dBF. Doesn't really matter which of these two you pick, because we're going to be clipping at a ceiling of 0 anyway. Something like this. I'm just shaping off the slight peaks at the top here. Maybe 5 dB is even too much. Maybe let's go 4.5. We want to keep the dynamics in check. We just want to catch those occasional peaks that are too loud. You know what I mean? And then the reason why we do that is so that our mastering limiter, which in my case is called Boost, which is not this one for some reason, that doesn't seem to open up like that. So I'll grab it from here. So that this plugin doesn't have to do too much work on those very occasional, very harsh, very strong peaks. When it comes to attack here, it's going to depend on the aggression of the track. This is like medium aggression, so I'll just up the release a little bit to maybe, let's say, like 70-ish. I'll stereo link all the way down so that the left and the right are working independently of each other, and then we can just hear what that does. Of course, oversample with true peak here. And there you have a nice clean master. Obviously I still need to actually mix this. This is a production mix that we're looking at. So it's not the best yet. But that's the basic idea of how I would master a track like this. And in my opinion, you should master a track in the same way. And what you'll see is that everything is wideband, right? No multi-band stuff happening. Anyway, next up, I do quickly need to say sorry for Psychedelic Underground Records. I did recently update the Patreon membership stuff that they get feedback first, but to be honest, I again didn't see a track posted from him, and he is a Patreon subscriber, so he should have gotten priority, but I just missed it. I'm sorry. I have to get used to that I have to look forward for you guys' tracks. Anyway, this is called Atlantis Rush, again by Silith Nightmare. Nice groove going on, I like it. Bassline could be a little bit longer. Actually, you have a little bit more space that you could use. Also, the transient could be a bit stronger. And please, for the love of God, get a different snare. It sounds like a dubstep snare. Again, if you're doing kick rolls, make sure that you resample your kick and that you add proper fade so that, again, it doesn't fade into the transient of the next kick. baseline too high. You can see the sub bass is going above like 100 hertz. I would suggest keeping it, as I said, under like C sharp here. So this is around 70 hertz. I wouldn't go above that. Because right now the bass doesn't have a bass. Do you know what I mean? Even here it's a little bit at the high side. D sharp 1 is, I don't like it. I would go not above C sharp 1, as I said. Unless you're doing like bass melodies or something like that, right? Where every once in a while there's a note going up. But this is just always, like, it's the root note of the bass line here that we're talking about. You can hear how much difference it has if you listen to the bass line of what was happening here with the bass when that growl bass came in, as opposed to this bass here. This sounds like it has no power in comparison. You do have some very, very crazy sound design going on. I will give you props for that.
Will all who wish to die please raise their hands? So,
this is much more powerful. This is much stronger. I like this much more. Still not a fan of the snare. I think here you're going a little bit too crazy. Here again, it just sounds so weak because of the bass line being misplaced an octave. It really just ruins the whole feel of the track, to be honest. At least in my opinion. A vocal like this could use a little bit more high end. It feels very low pass. I know that there's other stuff going on in the high end, mainly your like very aggressive glitchy sound design. But I would choose to have the vocal on top of that. So you could turn down the sound design a little bit and have the vocal come through a little bit more. At this point, I don't think you need to open hat anymore there, since you're going in this very low energy kind of vibe there. It was meant like a pad. It isn't a pad, it's a vocal. If you wanted a pad, then use a pad, but the vocal is something that is continuously morphing, and it's something that attracts us because it's a vocal. We're naturally, as humans, focusing on vocals because if you look at psychologically, like, no, not psychologically, biologically, from very old age, we, if you look at like evolution, I guess, we naturally kind of listen for vocals, because if somebody is trying to communicate with you in the forest when you're out hunting with your tribes mates, like from the old ages, it is obviously crucial that you always hear voices, right? So we almost have this natural kind of focus towards vocals, which means that in the mix they can almost never be a background element. Like, it has to be like a choir pad, really like something that isn't really morphing. In this case, it is sung. So we're naturally trying to listen to, okay, what is the vocal trying to say? What is it trying to communicate? So you have to mix accordingly. That's very important. Because otherwise we're constantly trying to stress to hear, okay, what is going on with this vocal? Now it just feels like it's in the background and it's trying to hide from us. Okay, next up we have Shifty with Das Liebesleben der Palästinenser. Whatever this says. I'm not going to try to pronounce it, I'm sorry. Just straight into it. Here also the bass line, in my opinion, could be an octave lower. A little bit more of a techno vibe, I guess. Your kick is too long. Your kick is cutting into your bass line. As you can see right here, this oscillation is kind of going into the bass line. You can just really just fade it out here, where it's already naturally kind of going down. It doesn't need more length here.
Gottes Willen, ein Harfenkonzert. Er spielt die Gräfin Sophonia Mercado Calvoso. Das wird ein schöner Mist sein, der uns um die Ohren fliegt.
Ein Harfenkonzert.
Nicht Harfen, Harfen.
Very fast German here.
Wo man reingab,
But these vocals are properly mixed, you know, they're up front. There's nothing going in the way.
Über die Einwirkung der Sonnenstrahlen auf das Liebesleben der Pflastersteine. Danach gibt's was zu habbern.
So we can understand that. Even if you don't understand German, you're still trying to understand the vocal.
Wie wollen wir uns denn die Hirse servieren? Im Käfig oder am Fensterbrett?
I like the vibe on this.
Das ist doch nicht möglich, das kann doch gar nicht sein.
It's kind of strange that you went with a swing thing there, but I guess for one beat it doesn't really like take you out of the flow. It just something like, hey, what's happening there?
Das ist der Chefkoch.
Very mono sound there. That sound could be a bit more stereo if you want.
Wenn gerade an der öffentlichen Anlage vorbeikam.
Like the rest of the stereo field is nice and wide.
Koch überreden, mal seinen Gewürzprüfer in das Fressen zu hängen.
and then there's these chords that are just fully mono.
Dem lieben Wirt hat er auch gesagt, dass du fette Sau sowieso nichts essen
Or two mono in my opinion. I don't know if they're fully mono.
Geschossener, schlanker Mensch. Nur wir müssten ihn dazu bewegen, sich mal zu verneigen, damit er vorkosten kann. Wenn er es freiwillig nicht tut, bleibt nur der Tritt in die Nüsse. Tritt mal ein bisschen nach vorn, du Bürstenbinder.
Very strange bass line here. I don't know if this is meant to be a psytrance bass line. We do see that it's bleeding into the next transient here on the bass note as well as in the kick. So you would need to resample this bass, whatever you're doing to it. Also, if this is supposed to be a psytrance bass line, where's the filter envelope? Honestly, I like this bass line a lot more. I think it would be even better, as I said, if it's an octave lower. But that other bass line sounded a little bit weird to me. Very nice track. I like it overall. Has some very nice tone, but it would need a little bit more work in my opinion. Next up we have Earthling with Vast Nights. One more. This one is hype. Let's see. Some really crazy sound design going on here. I think there's a little bit too much going on. It's hard to focus. The mix isn't telling me what I want to what I should focus on, because everything is loud, right? There's no background atmosphere in here, at least not that I can tell. Everything is just kind of like, listen to me, you know? It is loud, it is strong. When this melody starts to play, it should kind of take over the other elements, right? So it should turn down some of the sweeps, some of the other things that you're doing. Obviously drums are always supposed to be loud because they're the main element that we're kind of like dance to, even if you don't technically dance to this music, maybe. Starting to get tired. The connection issues really have drained me during this stream. In my opinion, there's too much going on here. You can fix this in the mix by making a lot of these sounds background elements, but you have very detailed drums, so we already have to concentrate a lot to just understand what's happening in the drums. And then there's like background, I would almost say like ambient noise, I feel like. There's all these extra like little drum details to it. There's the atmospheres and stuff like that. We have the chords coming in, we have the sweeps and all of the sound design that you're doing, and then there's the main melody that you're kind of frequency shifting up and down, I think. Thanks for listening, you're welcome. I hope my feedback is helpful. I do really like your sound design capabilities. I do really like the detail that you put in here, but I think you're going over the top here. I do agree with the commenters, by the way. I do think that this is cool stuff. I appreciate this from a technical perspective, but it's too complex for me to listen to and enjoy, right? If I were to just casually listen to this music. Very crazy stuff. I'm gonna be honest, it was, from a listener's perspective, it's hard to listen to. I really appreciate it from a producer perspective, but if you don't have that, if you're not a producer, you're not going to have that perspective. So then what remains is the listener perspective, and in my opinion, as just like a casual listen, it's really hard to enjoy this stuff because it's so complex and so dense, and everything is screaming at you from a mixing perspective, like listen to me, I am loud, I'm in the forefront. It's all fighting with each other, right? The squelch is fighting with the drums, is fighting with the bass, is fighting with the melody, it's all fighting with each other. Even the air candy that is supposed to be just adding a little bit of spice, a little bit of detail, is trying to be upfront in the mix, and in my opinion that's just too much. I want to submit another track if that's possible. Yes, of course. Of course you can. That's why I'm here. How long have I been streaming? I've been streaming for almost 3 hours. I'll do another half hour-ish. As I said before, as you could see before, I was yawning. I am getting a little bit tired. It is really annoying streaming with these connection issues, when people have connection issues and stuff like that. For one, I can just see my viewers being low, and it's not really that. Obviously, if I had 30 viewers right now, I would be very, very exciting, trying to keep that going and stuff like that. But to be honest, it's a little bit low today. That's always a little bit demoralizing. It's something that even subconsciously, I know you shouldn't look at it, but it's something that you do. The other thing is that constantly having to worry about, are people getting the connection? Are people able to view the stream properly? Are there people that try to join that cannot join? Just dealing with the chat, dealing with having to do polls and stuff like that. It's really annoying. So whatever's going on at YouTube right now, I hope that they fix that, because at this point, if this continues to happen, I won't enjoy streaming for much longer, because it's really tiring. Anyway, we have Alvin Tap. I'm quickly going to skip you and we'll get back to you, because Sil or Silith Nightmare is actually a Patreon subscriber, so then you get priority. And I should just start making that the norm, that I look for these tracks and stuff like that, because I did put that on the Patreon benefits. So after we listen to Silith Nightmare, we will listen to Alvin Tap's Stonehenge. But first we have Raven Claw. Very loud Raven sound there. I like the tone of this kick and bass. It isn't clean, but at least the tone is good. As I said, that Raven sound is very loud. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of this phaser effect. Build Your Dreams, how are you doing? Welcome. I like this part. Here again, I feel like the flow stats is missing a little bit of groove. A little bit more elevato, a little bit more of that pumping effect will help with the overall groove of your track. Okay, here the bassline is too high. If you're gonna do this, you should probably turn off that sequence in the part where you have the fill, where it's kind of starting to mess up. That's a good indication that something is actually happening, right? Now the bassline is way too high. From more of a structure point of view, for one, this music is already really hard to listen to on the dance floor. Like, it's not really optimized for the dance floor. And then two, you're spending a lot of time with the kick and bass not actually playing at its full power, right? It's either high passed, or you're in a fill, or in a breakdown, or something like that. Maybe even a little bit too much for the kind of dark, high-tech track that you're going for. Because that genre is really known for a lot of kick and bass just happening continuously. Here at this point you're going into a very low energy part of the track, so the offbeat hi-hat should probably not be there. Here again, the bass line is too high. One of the issues that I have with transgate like these is that they become annoying, or not annoying, boring very, very quickly. Because it's the same rhythm every 2 beats. What you could do to remedy that is not so much change the rhythm every once in a while, or change up the rhythm all the time if you're using like random rhythm generation, which some people use, but you can just change the note lengths over time. Right, so that some notes are a little bit longer than others. Because right now it's and I know that the automation is kind of going up and down, but that at some point that just gets boring as well, because we've heard the whole automation that is possible. Might also just be the case that that element is just playing for too long. That FM sound. Here again, I would argue that the bass line is too high. It's D sharp here, in the middle, I guess. I would then just lower it an octave. Cool stuff nonetheless. Again, your sound design is really, really complex, and this is the kind of track that you just listen to from the point of, or from the perspective of being a producer, and that you enjoy from the perspective of being a producer, in that the complexity is really there. I do think that Eclipse says it best in that there is a certain charm in simplicity, also in psytrance, so being able to keep things simple is definitely a skill. And maybe this, it feels sometimes a little bit overproduced, in my opinion. But that's, to be honest, I also like more simpler psytrance. Like the stuff that I make is definitely simpler than this, right? In terms of its sound design, in terms of its like musical complexity. Anyway, now we're listening to Stonehenge by Alvin Tapp. And I think that might be the last track that I'll listen for today. Because I am really getting tired now. Nice low kick and bass. You would need to clean it up. You can see this thing is going down here, the waveform. So you could probably just LFO tool this to fix that. Unless this is something that is happening because of the mix bus or the mastering or whatever is happening on your kick and bass group. In that case, just remove it. It's not worth it. Hear this, that tone sound here is too mono. That should probably be a lot more stereo. Why are we changing kick and bass here? I don't agree with the kick and bass change here. You already set up the groove and it was working so well with the other kick and bass. I wouldn't change it here. Again, also from a perspective of simplicity, having a different groove for every segment of your drop is probably not a good idea. And this is literally the second drop segment. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more to go after this, I think. Just looking at the waveform. If you're going to change up the kick and bass groove for each and every one of that, it's way too complex. I like that you're keeping the squelch in here. That reminds us of what was happening before. So there's a little bit of connection here. Yeah, here we have a different kick and bass groove again. This one is very dirty in terms of the kick and bass cleanliness. Also, your bass line is too loud here for the kick. Very loud sound there. If you're gonna do a sound so loud, you would probably need to announce it, like a sweep going into it, so that the listener is aware of something that is about to happen. Here again, it changes again. There's just, I think, too much going on in this track. Too many different ideas, too many different things. Here again we're with a different kick and bass groove. I do really like this groove, so if you were going to go for a kick and bass groove, what I would do is keep this one and make the rest the sliding bass line that we heard in the very first drop. Because that seemed to work particularly well with the sound design that you have. And to be honest, sliding bass lines work with everything, because you can just lay any rhythm on top of it. Not a fan of this sound. Especially in this stage, this should be the most hype part of this segment of the track, of this drop. I like this a lot more. If you're layering the acid line on top of it, it works a lot better. I like how their rhythms kind of intertwine with each other. Something is causing a lot of rumble in the very low frequencies. I'm not sure if you want this. You can just high pass whatever element is causing that. We don't care about their phase issues anyway. Don't do that with the kick and bass. Suddenly everything is mono. The stereo field is definitely something to look at if you're going this mono here. I felt like before it wasn't that much of a problem, but now I suddenly just notice like we're completely mono. Yeah, here you can hear the bassline actually has some stereo information in it, so it's... Hello B7Z, welcome, welcome. The thing that you want to submit to right here is feedback on stream. Should also update that thing. Let me quickly do that. same bass line to the second drop, but overall you have like 3-4 bass line grooves. I wouldn't exceed 2 grooves. One of the reasons why this track sounds overly complex is that you're also within the same drop kind of switching the groove around, right? What I would do if you want, my opinion is, like the standard recipe is going to be rolling bassline for the first and the third drop, and then for your second drop segment, you're going to have a progressive bassline or sliding bassline or whatever other bassline that you want to introduce. The reason why that works is because then it's easy to mix in, because you can use the third and first drop to kind of mix, right, with any other track that uses a rolling kick and bass, and then your special bassline is sitting in the middle. Will try to play with pan. I wouldn't play with the pan. For such a main element, I would just use like actual stereo spread, right? Something like this, a stereo spreading tool that takes a mono sound and just makes it wider. Anyway, I did see that somebody else wanted to need to do some EQ on each element too. To be honest, the main problem with this track is in writing. I think it's too complex. I think that you're trying to do too much in one track. You have ideas for 3 tracks and you try to put that in one track. Anyway, I'll quickly wait for B7Z if he still wants to submit a track. If not, then I'll end the stream here, because I am getting pretty tired. As you can probably tell, like my energy is very low today. I can see it in my viewers even. It's a sign of my viewership dropping, is that just I am not as enthusiastic and therefore the stream gets a little bit boring. It's just that when you deal with these connection issues, it drains so much of your energy at the beginning of the stream, and having to switch everything around and having to set up a new stream and everything like that. It's just a hassle and I just don't want to deal with it. I'll still wait for B7Z to just submit a track if he wants to. And if not, if he doesn't submit in like the next, I don't know, minute or something like that, then I'm just going to assume that he left and we'll call it here for today. I mean, I know for a fact that I'm boring right now. I can tell. Right? It's just that it has been going on, this stuff, I guess, since that other Sunday when we had issues, where I eventually decided to stream on Tuesday. Tuesday? I think. When was that? That was the 29th, I think. We had our first major issues in terms of the stream just not working and connection issues and stuff like that. But it has been happening almost every stream since. I think after that, the actual feedback stream that I did after that had no connection issues whatsoever. And then every stream since then, we've had some kind of people just coming in chat and saying, oh, I'm buffering, oh, I'm having issues. And then you do a poll and it turns out that half the people that try to watch the stream cannot really watch the stream, and then it just drains you. I was hoping, I think, I'm hoping that for now, there's definitely something that changed over the last like 2-3 weeks. I'm hoping that for now, whatever the problem is can be fixed by this normal latency that we're on now. I don't know. Okay, first and last bassline for this track. That can also work with the sliding bass. It's a little bit harder to mix that into a live set because there's not that many tracks that have a sliding bassline. What you could also do is go for a 2-drop structure. I'll show the waveform of this track, but I won't play the track itself because I don't want to spoil the track for you guys. But a 2-drop... So if... Okay. This is a 3-drop structure, right? Drop 1, drop 2, drop 3. It's very easy. This is rolling bassline, this is rolling bassline, this is some kind of progressive bassline. Very easy stuff. I can mix in here, in this part of the track, and I can mix out from the outro again into the other track that is next into the set that I'm trying to play. A 2-drop structure is going to look somewhat like this, where it's one drop here and one drop here. In this case, what you could potentially do is make this a sliding bass line and this a rolling bass line. That way what you have is essentially a track that can get you from a sliding bass line into a rolling bass line into a live set. If you're already playing some kind of sliding bass line in your live set, then you just use this track to transition into the rolling bass line part of the track here. You can also, in this case, both of these are rolling bass lines, so you can just use this to mix in here and then mix out here. And then it's just like a normal track that you can use. But really, I guess I'm not an expert in terms of like DJ friendliness and stuff like that. And I recently left a comment in Eclipse video talking about that, asking if he could do more stuff in regards to that, talk about that in like a video of his. But from my understanding, what you want is you want 16 bars in and 16 bars out, and you want to keep in mind whatever is coming before it and after it in terms of like how is it going to mix in, how is it going to mix out, that kind of stuff. Thank you for that stream anyway. You're welcome. I'm glad you liked it. Das means moin. I don't know what that means. I'm assuming some kind of like hello. I don't know. Did the other guy end up joining today? Or trying to send a track for feedback? B7C. I don't know if he's still here. Maybe he isn't. Because I would assume that by now he would have said something. Morgan Suspat. Is my chat just going into German now? Have I been conquered by the Germans? Wouldn't have been the first time for my country. Just kidding. It's funny to make those jokes, but hopefully you guys understand that I make them in good fun. Okay, I don't think that the other guy is going to submit the track anymore. It has been quite a while since. Can we send link for feedback? You can send indeed a link for feedback. The only place where you can send that link though is in feedback on stream in my Discord server. ! feedback should give you all the details as well as a link to join. I just updated it, so it should now also tell you to submit specifically in feedback on stream. Let's test that. I'll do another one. I mean, what else am I gonna do? Yay! It updated. Nice. Because before it said every other Sunday, which was true before. But now I do it every Sunday. So I decided to update the command and also just put this in here in writing so people will always see which channel to put it in. That was not a very big problem, but people would get confused and actually submit it in my normal feedback, which is for when I'm not streaming, right? So this is just for normal feedback here, and then if I'm streaming, it's for this one. And people would actually post in here during the stream expecting me to watch this. But usually when I'm streaming, I just kind of scroll down like this, so I never even see that there's something like posted in here. I just look at it like this because whenever I start up the Discord for the stream, I just open it up like this, I go like that, and then I click here and I post the link and whatever. So that caused a few issues. So now it actually updates and it gives you an indication of where to post. That should help prevent that. Anyway, I'll wait for your track then, other German guy. It's hard to pronounce your name. Das nur meins. I don't know what that means. But you have indeed taken over my stream. I do read a little bit of German, but I cannot talk it. I'll work on this week, and we see you next week. You're welcome. I'm glad that my feedback was helpful. Oh, we have another track from Alvin Tap to listen to first. I was waiting for the other guy. I did see that somebody new joined just now. But let's listen to this Alvin Tap track while we wait for the other guy. So this is track 61. It's still a work in progress, but let's have a listen. Very minimal intro. I would put a pad under this. Okay, I don't like this. First of all, I'm not a fan of just kicks playing like this. And then the bass just comes in at a random point. Also, I would say that this kick has a little bit too much muddy area here. Muddy like region, I would say. That can be anywhere from I would say like maybe 150 to 1000. The usual suspect is going to be 500 Hertz. That's going to be an area that you really have to look at when it comes to muddiness and stuff like that in the kick. But even here, if we look at the kick, it is not clean. This is still work in progress, so I'm just going to point it out. Don't hit the couch enough for today. Have fun. Same to you. Thank you for stopping by. Okay, so let's listen to the energy level. It's very low and it just goes up like this. There's no indication that something is about to happen. Again, you want to clean this up. I would also use a little bit of processing on your bassline. Here again, you can see, right? This should be cleaned up. Again, this is a work in progress, so I'm assured that this is going to happen later on in the production. I'm just saying that that's something that you shouldn't forget. Sound design is nice, but I hear the same sound that you used in the other track, that 4-man sound. I would be very careful with that, because then all of your tracks are going to sound the same. There's no real flow in this track. That's my big problem here. Like if I quickly open up one of the waveforms of my tracks, I know that usually I have the analyzers here. What you'll see for any of my tracks, right? Section 1, 2, 3, 4. All of these have different elements, all of these have different drums, and I only switch drums from segment to segment. So this whole segment will have a particular set of drums. This segment will have a particular different set of drums. This one will have a particular other set of drums, stuff like that. And I think that that's the way that you should write from the beginning. What I see you do is that you just lay out a kick and bass for a very long time. And then I'm assuming that you're going to start carving into it. Right now you also have like kick rolls and stuff into it, but there's no real fills in there. There's just a double kick here, for example. That's not a fill. A fill is where you just stop the kick and bass for one bar and you use it to transition into something new. For example, you could have a fill here where it pauses for a little bit. I would go for a bar, and then, for example, the closed hi-hats get added, right? Your 60-note closed hi-hats. I feel that's what's missing from this track in terms of the flow, and I feel that you can only really achieve that if you write the track like that from the beginning. If you start with a long kick and bass and you start to carve into it, and you start to carve out different parts, it's really hard to do that. No effects on this project. How do you write a whole project without the effects though? Because the effects are going to determine part of the flow, right? At the end of the day, the most important thing about psytrance is how it flows up and down and how that can be placed into a live set, because that's storytelling at the end of the day. So when you're saying like it's not yet in the project, do you put that in as last? Because when I write a pure project, I just write very linearly, and that means that I'll put in the sequences for a section, I'll put in maybe not all of the one-shots, but I'll get an idea of the one-shots for a section, and one of the first things that I do is I add my riser and my downlifter. I usually have one main riser and downlifter that I like to use, and sometimes I'll swap them out later or something like that, but I'll at least temporarily write that main kind of structure in there, with the riser, the downlifter and that kind of stuff, so that I have a basic idea at least of what the track is supposed to be doing. Slicer, welcome to the feedback stream. Unfortunately, your link is not going to work. I can see that it's a private link and you need to share it like this, where there's that extra little bit down here. So please update your link so that I can listen to it later. Anyway, next up we have Ice for Breakfast with Wired. I hope that the feedback was helpful, by the way. Let me know if there's anything that needs more explaining. Ice for Breakfast with Wired. Let's have a listen. Oh, this is just a minute. Nice. That's very loud, very aggressive. A very snappy kick. In my opinion, the kick is too aggressive. The whole track is too aggressive. It almost sounds like a hardcore kick with the saturation that you're going on this kick. Also, the bass is too loud. Right? Your bass is louder than the kick. Well, not now because it's layered with a snare, but before you got the idea. I do like that idea of what you're doing with the vocal, where it's first 3 times playing very short, and then in the last one, when it comes out, when it's on its own in the breakdown, it becomes bigger and longer. That's a really cool writing technique. I'm actually going to steal that. That's a good idea. I like that. So it's this, you have this vocal, it is a shout, but it's like, it's almost sitting down like a little bit, because all of the other elements are on top of it and it's being pushed around a little bit, and then it comes in the breakdown and it becomes louder, bigger, and also longer. So that's really well done. I really like that. Slicer. I think this is not gonna work. Yeah. As you can see, I cannot find the track because this is a private track which means that I cannot see it. I cannot give you feedback. There we are. I was about to type to you because I thought that maybe you weren't in the chat. There's a few people that aren't actually in the chat and in the stream when we're doing these things. They just submit their track knowing that I'm going to play it and then they listen to it later. But anyway, you were here. So this is the complex thought of R.R. Recalis, 2001. this stuff from a sound designer's perspective, from a producer's perspective, but as a listener, I wouldn't listen to this. It is this kind of very complex experimental stuff that you really have to love, and there's a lot of things going on, and nothing is kind of working with the rest. Do you know what I mean? You have a lot of sound design, maybe even too much, to be honest. Like there's a few too many things going on, which makes it hard to really concentrate on what you want the listener to listen to, especially with the combination of the fact that the kick and bass isn't really done that properly and isn't mixed that well. What I wanted to listen to is this other kick and bass again. See if I can find it. Yeah, I like this kick a lot more. This kick has that, it has that classical kind of Goa punch. Right, we can analyze that here. In this case, it is just this kind of click in the mid-range. As you can see, 1,000 to like 3,000, 4,000 hertz mainly. And then it's sub-bass. That can work really, really well. You just have to clean up this kick and bass. I would actually say that in terms of volume mixing, this kick and bass volume is actually properly done. It just needs cleaning at this point. And then you need to use that in the rest of the track as well. That's what I would do. That would be the biggest fix for this track. And then after that, I would try to simplify it a little bit, and I would like to see a little bit of what you would do is try to find the rhythm of the kick and bass, maybe the groove that you have, and try to kind of overlay the sound design on top of that, so that you are still doing a little bit of cohesion between the sound design and the kick and bass and some of the drums and all of the other things, because I think it's a little bit too experimental. I do like tracks of like this of an experimental nature, but one of the things that you'll find is that this is going to be really hard to mix into, for example, a different track into a live set, something like that. You can really only listen to this, as I said before, with a different track that was submitted for feedback in the comfort of your own home. You'll never see this in a live set being played at a festival, because it's just too complex, it's too abstract. This is only really a track that producers and really fanatic music fans are going to like. I'll have an alternative for you for SciScope. It's a little bit harder, but you can set this to the master, and then you can just record here. And then you just solo your kick and bass, and you just look at the waveform like this. And then you tweak it however you want. Other than that, there is oscilloscope, I think. It might be hard to align that. The cool thing about SciScope, the reason why SciScope is so good for psytrance is because it is completely tied to the beat, right? Like 1-to-1. If you load up a whatever kick sample that you have, say one of my quality kicks from my quality kick sample pack. By the way, if you type !products, if you're interested in my products, you'll get to my product page where you can buy some of my products, and that also supports the stream. Thank you very much. This is tight, right? So that's the proper alternative. That's the reason why we like SciScope in psytrance. What's happening? Oh, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. What you can do is you can also set this to here, and then you can just use this as your makeshift SciScope. For some reason, this has a little bit of delay in it. I think if you set it to resampling... Wait, why is this here? What is causing delay today? I don't know. SciScope? I guess SciScope introduced a delay on that channel. But yeah, you could make your own makeshift SciScope by just recording it. But you have to look for an oscilloscope that is tied to the beat. That is important. Right, I have a different oscilloscope maybe. Tools, multi-analyzer. This comes with an oscilloscope, but this isn't tied to the beat. Loudness wave, I guess. So here you just have to, I guess, zoom in. And then you have to see if you can pause it properly, something like that. And then you have to do your analysis, check if everything is okay, something like that. This isn't really meant for this kind of work. So it isn't tied to the beat, and therefore it just kind of scrolls like this. That's something that you'll find happens very often with this. Do I like Scilab? I've never taken enough time to actually use Scilab. There's 30% off SciScope Pro till the end of the month. Is SciScope Pro, is that Mac available? No, that's also only for Windows. It's actually strange that this is for Windows, because I'm pretty sure that this was programmed in Juice. In fact, I think if I open this build of SciScope up, yeah, made in Juice. And Juice you can just one-click export for Mac, as far as I understand, as far as I know. Anyway, we have one more track to listen to. This is Rui Rice with Your Satellite Unfinished. Thanks, brother. I see the feedback now. The track was 2 days. I will work more. Thanks a lot. I have another more Psy. Let's have a listen. I guess it's more psychedelic. Usually in psytrance you don't have lyrics and chords. You have one root note, one chord that you just use for your intro, and that's it. And this is going to transition really hard into your kick and bass. I mean, unless you do that. But now it loses the connection with... It feels very disconnected because this is always the root note, right? This is always the same note. Why does the limiter cause shift? Because it uses 1/28 samples of latency. It has a look ahead of 3 milliseconds. If you set it to 6, it's going to cause even more latency. It introduces latency into the signal, so therefore the signal is going to have latency in it, and therefore it needs to be compensated. Okay, this switch up doesn't really work for me because you're just going into triplets without announcing that. Doesn't really make sense. If you want to go into triplets, I would use a separate section of drop for that, right? So you go to a small breakdown, you announce the fact that triplets are coming with some of the other elements, and then you go into your triplets segment. And now we're back into the normal rolling bassline. So I would just use this if you want to do anything. This is way too empty. Way too quiet. There needs to be some pads in here. There needs to be some other elements that just kind of maintain the fact that this is a... It sounded like the track was finished. That's how quiet it is. Vocals could be louder here. I like this. I like this, how it combines with the build-up. Again, vocal stuff like this can be a lot louder. Here the lead is too loud. You can see it overpowering the kick and bass. You can probably also hear that. My serum bassline often sounds not so good on headphones. Any tips on that? How can I compensate for the delay in the limiter? You check the samples, how many samples of latency it introduces, and then you go into your size scope and hello? Here. You go into your size scope and you type that latency into the latency here. And now you have it compensated. When it comes to making it sound good on headphones, my tip is it will really depend on your setup. If your speakers are your best system, then you should probably make them on speakers. I would obviously prefer speakers. I almost exclusively make my bass lines on speakers. I do check them on these headphones, but I know that these aren't as representative of the sound as my speaker system. So you just take that into consideration and maybe tweak the bass line a little bit for it to sound a little bit better. It will depend on your system. If your headphones are the best monitoring system that you have, then obviously you listen to your headphones. Honestly here, when it comes to your music, I've heard a couple of tracks from you now over the last few weeks. What I would say is that there's not a lot of cohesion between what you're doing in the break and what you're doing in the psytrance part. It feels to me like you're really trying to write EDM, and then somebody is putting a gun towards your head and say, make this a psytrance drop, make this a psytrance drop. It never feels like psytrance is where the track is going from what is happening in the break. Do you know what I mean? It's really hard to say, but it sounds like you're trying to write Big Room or Future Bass or something like that. And if you want to do that, then fully commit to that. And if you want to do psytrance, either go with a reference track like something like these guys. I can give you a couple of reference tracks. In my Discord server, by the way, for anybody wondering what I'm listening to, there is a, I think it is somewhere here in links, maybe? No. Where is it? Landing page. I did remember posting this, the link to this playlist, and I know that people actually make use of it because I've seen people in there. I haven't updated this for a long while. These are my samples and stuff. Where is it? I'll update that. I'll post this in here. The link to my psychedelic favorites. Copy link to playlist. This is the stuff that I listen to and use as reference tracks and all of that stuff. There's many tracks in here. But if you want to write this kind of music, like psytrance, what I would listen to is artists like Omniki, Neelix does some cool stuff. Omniki I'm a big fan actually. Ghost Rider does some cool stuff. Ranji also. There's a few more in here that fit this description. Lonely Forest I guess could work. Where is it? Here more Omniki and Terra. This is more like prog progressive. Here's Blastoise. This is another very well-known artist in this kind of genre. I cannot play any of these tracks on stream, but these are very good reference tracks. This one also is a very good reference track. Here you'll hear the kind of what I like to call prog, right? The very EDM-y version of psytrance, but still very psytrance. I feel like you're going even more than they are doing in terms of your writing. I didn't know that this wasn't anywhere in here. I 100% thought that I had posted it in here. But I guess I'll just edit the links here. Okay, so now it's in here. So this is my Spotify playlist, what I listen to / use as references. You can just go here and look at the reference tracks that I use. And I would take some of those tracks and try to write in a similar style as them. I'm sorry. Anyway, we do have one more submission by Sai Latency Speed of Asset 26.10. Let's have a listen and then I'll finish the stream for today. Then it's been long enough. In the break, would you just play the keynote or one chord throughout it? I would just play the root note. But this is only latency in the size scope, or is it real latency in the whole signal? It is real latency, but it's usually compensated for in a DAW. Ableton does compensate for latency, but it doesn't do it very well. Because what Ableton does is it tries to minimize that compensation and just calculates it once. It doesn't do it per plugin. I like the tone of the kick and bass here. Let's see if it's clean. No, the bass line is definitely not resampled, so you definitely have to do that. And it's also morphing into the kick. You can see the kick transient is being pushed up here. It's also going down here, so this suggests that this is slamming into a limiter somewhere. Ableton is the only DAW that doesn't do per plugin delay compensation, but it does delay compensation nonetheless. You may sometimes notice that with certain plugins, if you press play, it takes like half a second for it to actually play. Hello Rui, we just listened to your track. You're just a little bit late. I like this, the nice energy, I like the drum loop that you're using. I do feel like some of the lead sounds are a little bit loud, like they're a little bit overpowering. What you could do is add a few sequences as well, because right now it feels like it's only a one shot. And this is supposed to be the very high energy part here, so maybe like an acid line or some bandpass plug, some particles, stuff like that could really help here. I just produce with regular JLB phones €10. That's probably not a good idea. That sounds like a very bad idea. That's gonna explain a few things mix-wise from your track. This mix is really nice. I do really like this. This is nice high end. That's usually a good indication of somebody's mixing capabilities, is how are their high ends stacking up, and this definitely works. Now we also have some more sequences in here, so this is really where the energy is kicking up. would have loved to have this sequence that is playing now also already start in the breakdown so that we can prepare for it. And I would like it to continue in this whole drop segment here. It's now just kind of coming back in. It should just play throughout the whole thing, right? Maybe with some modulation on top of it. But closing the filter so much sounds a little bit odd to me. Because everything like in the drums screams high energy, and then all of the other elements are like very low energy, and there's this one sequence in there, and you're just cutting that out completely. Yeah, and I mix EDM melodies with hard drops, with noise better. I try. I did talk a little bit about reference tracks, and I think there's a lot of things that you can pick up from reference tracks, because to be honest, when it comes to your music, it still sounds very amateurish in that it's not connecting the different things, the breaks with the rest of the track, with the drops. I like that snare. Where's that snare from? I've heard it before. I don't think I have a snare like that. I would like a snare like that. Because for fills and stuff, the way that you used it before for the fill, I might sample this snare from you. Yeah, I was doing it without references. I don't think... I'm sorry if I'm confusing things. I was responding to Rui here when it came to the references. I actually like the mix of this track. This is a very well mixed. I have some issues with the production in the way that the energy flow is kind of happening here. I talked about it before with the lack of energy in the sound design elements, whereas in the drums it's full energy. But this part, for example, this is very nice, because everything is hype, you know what I mean? If you're gonna do hype drums, then you also need to do hype sequences and stuff like that. One final thing that I would like to see you do a little bit more maybe in this track is switch things up, because things sound a lot the same. I'll give a nice example of that once this is finished. Overall, very well done. I really like that. That's really nice. What I would like to see from you, for example, is I'll again just use this one track that I've been using all the time for all my examples here. But if we listen to this one over here, let me quickly set this up here. What you'll hear is that every part has its own unique elements. Not completely. Some of the background sequences in here also exist in here. That kind of long thing. That kind of continues throughout the whole thing. And some other like bandpass plugs, that kind of thing, the particles here. But then you go in here. There's this rising sequence in here. Then the next part has its own unique kind of sequence. This isn't mixed yet, this isn't mastered yet in any way, but what you will notice in terms of its production is I'm bringing that unique element to the forefront, right? There's other elements happening in here, but they are standing a little bit back. Those are the supportive elements, but there's a main element in here, there's a main element in here, there's a different main element in here. You can hear some one-shots on top, all of that stuff, that is okay. But there's definitely like a main element happening on top. This is another good example. Here we have vocals. Definitely on top, right? Everything is forcing you to listen to the vocals. There's some other small one-shots below it. some very slow stuff. Now we get that other sequence. It's still kind of like in the background. It's being filtered out a little bit. We go in here. That other sequence takes all of the energy. Some of the one-shots here play a little bit more of a role in here. Again, this is not fully mixed, but here the one-shots will take a little bit more of a role. You go in here, it's just the asset line. Here, you go in here, it's just the grid synth sequence that I have. That kind of rhythm thing. Again, there's one shots on top. You can hear those little bells and little things in the background a little bit, but your attention is drawn to one of the main elements, and all of the different sections have their own main elements. And that is what I would like to see from your production as well, because the rest I think is very, very strong. Anyway, I think we've listened to music for long enough. I know it says it's only been 3.5 hours, but it has actually been almost 4 hours because of the technical difficulties that we had. So I'm going to end the stream here. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream, and I hope that you found the feedback useful. I'm sorry about all of the connection issues that we've been having lately. There's really nothing realistically that I can do about it other than just hope that YouTube fixes it. And yeah, I mean, there's nothing else that I can do. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll try to stream again next week during the week to just see if it's getting better. Hopefully, as I said, the latency mode that we're on now is actually going to fix some of these things, and it doesn't keep on getting worse. But yeah, there's just nothing that I can do. Thank you guys for sticking around, and I'll see you all